And that is so critical in our lives, is not to become hostages to our circumstances, to recognize the choice and power that we each have within our circumstances. And, what is the light within each of us? And so, like, even for me as an adult, right, I went through a very, very difficult divorce. I went through, it was very toxic. It was a very unhealthy relationship. And it dimmed my light. Like, my light got dimmed through that process, through that circumstance. And I can, blame my ex-husband. I can blame the circumstances. I can blame even myself, you know, or I have the choice to say, okay, what was the education? What was the lessons?
Before we continue, I want to take a brief moment to acknowledge and thank the sponsors who are helping me with this podcast and all of my podcasts from now on. This show is supported by my unfranchised business and my personal shop.com, Doug and Carol Mall. It's a heart centered way to support my work, my wellness, and this platform through everyday shopping. I'll share a little more about that at the end of today's podcast for those who are curious. No pressure, just information and options. Now, let's get started. Heart, you bring joy and love to this place. In my heart, you bring joy and love to this place. In my heart, you bring joy and love to this place. In my heart. La, la, la. And welcome. I am Carol V. Brown Jones, and welcome to Gigi United by Love. Gigi stands for grandmothers and their girls, and that girl means their daughters, their daughter-in-laws, granddaughters. We're going to throw in the grandsons as well, and cousins, sisters, nieces, and your good friends too. This is for you. Thank you for being here, and I hope that you will share this program with your friends and subscribe to the YouTube channel and to this podcast. I'm ready to start. I'd like to introduce my guest today, which is Melanie Soloway. She's a former LA Deputy District Attorney turned passionate humanitarian travel group creates unforgettable journeys with purpose. After years in the courtroom and boardroom, Melanie has shifted her focus to the heart of humanity. Known as the mother of humanitarian vacations, she has become a trailblazer in transforming how families, team, and adventures experience travel. With a background as an angel investor, best-selling author, public speaker, and film producer, Melanie has been featured in top publications and even interviewed live from the New York Stock Exchange. Her mission is simple, but yet powerful, to connect extraordinary people with exotic places that need resources, love, and support. I have a special connection with Melanie as we are both products of Lisa Nichols' certified transformational training. And we were in the same cohort. And we met in Daytona Beach where we actually got to hug each other. And she has the best hugs in the world. I want to invite you to listen and consider traveling with Melanie. She's going to share her upcoming trip to South Africa. Another beautiful soul that God has purposely put into my life. One of my earth angels from my book, Get on Board the New Underground Railroad. Let's meet Melanie. Melanie, good to have you here today. So I always like to find out what the little girl Melanie thought she wanted to be when she grew up. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
So the thing that I most remember being a little girl was standing in my backyard, and we had a gate in the backyard that served as my chalkboard. And then I stood there with my chalk and I would teach my classroom of invisible students. So really, I think for me, I think that was what I was being called to do was to teach and really even more than teach to educate.
Right,
Yeah.
beautiful. Because there
And
are
oh,
different
and you
ways.
asked me, I'm sorry.
Because there's different ways to be teaching and educating people.
Absolutely. And you asked me where I grew up, and I was born and raised in South Africa.
What part of South Africa?
So I was in Johannesburg when I was born. And actually, when I was born, you mentioned how we met in the Lisa Nichols community, and we're both transformational trainers, Lisa Nichols transformational trainers. We met in that certification program. And I know you recently just watched her show on Broadway.
Yes,
And it
yes,
was so exciting because I got to go to the Broadway show and then got to watch the live replay of it that it
yeah.
had been filmed. And it was really cool because she shared her experience of being in Nelson Mandela's cell and what that was like for her. And I was born during the height of apartheid when apartheid was, in full force and effect. And
Hmm.
so to go there now and see what it's like now, since Nelson Mandela's been was released from prison and what he did, both from prison and out of prison, is just remarkable. And he has that quote about education that is just so powerful. That education, and I don't remember the exact quote, but how education can change the world. And so, for me, I think it was that sense as a younger child was education, but then as I got older, it was that sense of like just justice and being part of that movement.
So where do you live now?
Now I live in Los Angeles, California.
Hmm.
And when I moved here, it was sort of one of those things where I look at it was like, universe, divine guidance, God, like, I can tell the actual story of what brought me here, but like looking back now at my life, I know that that was part of my path of what I was supposed to do. And I got to pursue law and become a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles County. I worked in juvenile, got to see some things in the juvenile justice. For anyone that's listening and not looking, can see my quotation marks, right? The justice system in America. And then as I continue to evolve and grow and learn, realizing how it's like the system is still really flawed and how much work still needs to be done everywhere.
That's good that you can look back at all the different things that brought you to where you are. I think that's very important. I'm in that phase of life too, when you can see, wow, that was not pleasant. That climb was not pleasant, but where it led me to now was important, and so that was purposeful, and that's important for us all to be able to do that. Definitely.
I think that's part of when I talk about the education, Carol, right? Like there's education, there's like what I think, I don't know, but and I think we as a society can think of as education, which is more of that formal go to school education. And then I think that there's life education and life lessons. And how do we, I know you are you're so incredible with all of Harriet Tubman lessons, right? And I mean, that woman took from life the lessons that she took from the life and her life experience and how she applied those lessons in her life to herself, and then what she taught was is incredibly profound. And so I've really been thinking about that. I've really been thinking about how can we, or how do we, as individuals, take our pain and what do we do with our pain? We can either use it can become our prison, or it can become our passport.
And that's a choice that we make ourselves, how we're going to perceive and how we're going to develop from that period of time. And you mentioned Harriet Tubman teaching. If you think about it, she was teaching just by being who she was.
Right.
The fact that we can reflect on her life and what it took to do what she did, that's the lessons that we need to look at and know that we all have the potential to do great things. So right now with this new book, Get on Board the New Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman's Spirit is guiding us to love and actions. I'm getting ready to do a presentation where I'm talking about looking at all the love and actions in her life, the things she did, the way she did things. They were all because of her love for people, her love for herself first, and then love for people. So that is so true that we can learn a lot from her, and that's why. I mean, I'm interviewing you, but you're bringing this thought out of me. That's why it's so important for us not to take this history out of the schools, and it just maybe needs to be taught in a way that it's more meaningful than just the historical facts of what happened and who did what, but
Right.
what this person, particularly one of them, Harriet, what we can learn from her spirit, her journey, and the legacy that she left. So yeah, very much so. Tell us about what you did with young people after. Um,
So if I can, even before you ask this question, if I can just respond to what you just said, is that okay?
yeah.
And this is part of what, part of the lesson. So, and I'm going to combine it actually, even though you didn't finish your question. I think I know where you're going. Like, what did I do with young people, or what do I do with young people, or right.
Yes.
So my company prior to the one that I've just started, which is my current one, is Humanitarian Travel Group, actually, because we want to work as a community, we want to work as a society, we want to work together as we both learn these lessons, experience these lessons, and teach these lessons. And my other company that I own is Raising Enlightened Children. And I truly believe that every soul that is born, every child that is born it has a soul, and we each have a light within us. And how can we shine that light? How can we sometimes our circumstances, like what you're talking about, Harriet, or when I'm talking about Nelson Mandela, or we look at Martin Luther King, we look at some of the greats in life, right? That they've gone through life, and they didn't allow their circumstances to hold them hostage.
Exactly.
And that is so critical in our lives, is not to become hostages to our circumstances, to recognize the choice and power that we each have within our circumstances. And what is the light within each of us? And so, like, even for me as an adult, right, I went through a very, very difficult divorce. I went through, it was very toxic. It was a very unhealthy relationship, and it dimmed my light. Like, my light got dimmed through that process, through that circumstance. And I can, blame my ex-husband. I can blame the circumstances. I can blame even myself, you know, or I have the choice to say, okay, what was the education? What was the lessons? What were the lessons that I learned through going through this experience? And going back to love in action, how can I continue to love, right? How can I choose love over, resentment or hate or disappointment, or, how can I choose that? And so I've come up with this thought, this acronym, this, like, what I'm wanting to teach this year is really about, showing up, right? And then shine. Like, we need to shine. And the S in shine is to shift, and to shift our perspectives, right? To shift how we're looking at certain things in our lives. And it doesn't make what happened go away. That's not the point. The point is, how can we take what happened, and what can we learn from that? And then the in shine, the second letter is H, which is to have faith and understand that our journeys really are being guided. And how can we show up with the courage that we need to move forward, with the faith, right? It's not that we're not going to feel fear. A lot of people think, I need to not have fear before I can act. And that's not realistic as human beings. The word is fearless. It's fearless doesn't mean no fear. It's not the absence of fear. It's to fear less. But if we're
Mm,
fearing less, then what are we doing more? Then I would say we're faithing more. And we faith more by operating more in that courageous state. And so for me, the humanitarian travel and coming back to that light within really is about our traveling inward to really look at these things about ourselves and then to come together as a group and do group travel together to make an impact, to make the change, to be the change. Like what you said, is that Harriet lived, the way she educated was in her beingness.
Exactly. And the beingness. And yeah, what you're saying is so true. It is a choice. And we all have that choice. That's one thing they cannot take away from us because it's inside. That's our sole choice of how we want to actually go inside and find the joy and find the peace. It may not, like Nelson Mandela is the person to learn that from. That, and you can tell us more about um, him and his time in prison, being in the country. And I don't know, interesting enough, what did you learn about Nelson Mandela? Were you were probably here in the United States when he was free?
Yes, when he was freed, I was living in the United States, and the thing about him that's really unbelievably remarkable when you read his very thick book, Long Walk to Freedom, and he really unpacks and I mean he wrote that book from prison, right? And
Mm,
he wasn't allowed to, so he had to smuggle the book out. He had to smuggle his journey out of prison, and then it ultimately ended up getting published. But not but and he was such a remarkable human because there was, no matter what they were doing to his body, right? I mean, he literally was in a cage, right? In a cell, like in this cage that they put him in because of the color of his skin, and he was fighting for freedom. No matter what they did to his body, they could not imprison his mind. They
right,
could not imprison him because he always saw himself in a like his mission and what he talks about. And he, in court before they imprisoned him, he said that what he lived for was a just and equal society where everybody was treated equally. And he had such strong conviction that he even said, like, this is something that he lives for, but it's also something that he was willing to die for.
mm-hmm,
And despite what they did to his body, he continued to keep that belief. He continued to hold on to that faith, right?
yes,
I'm going to call it faith. And so he went from being a political prisoner to literally becoming the president of the country. And not only was he the president, but he was very, very instrumental in building the Constitutional Court, which is the equivalent of the Supreme Court in the United States. He built Constitutional Court in South Africa, and its preamble and its content. As a lawyer, I got to really study in depth the Constitution in America, and the language of it is still so archaic, right? It's about all men are created equal.
right.
And really, what's implied is all white,
Mm-hmm.
Christian, straight men are created equal, right? And
Ah,
we can add
that's right.
probably,
And that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about the Christian straight men. So if you
right,
were Jewish, if you were gay, you weren't included.
right. If you are black or brown,
Right.
if
I knew
you
they
are
weren't
color,
included.
like, you're not included in that. If obviously woman was explicitly excluded,
Right.
right, as women and girls. And I know yours is for your pod, your what you do right now, what we're doing, I guess it's a
Women
podcast,
and
right,
girls.
is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
specifically for grandmothers and girls, but women are explicitly left out of the Constitution. But so are all these other people. It's all the marginalized communities.
Right.
And the thing that he did is included the language that's included. And obviously, he didn't do this alone. He did this with, again, a group of people because it takes community and we need to come together. But the language is extremely inclusive of who it applies to. And it is literally for everyone, for every human being. So when we go, I'm going on a trip in February. If anybody does want to come with me, there are still a few spots left. I don't have many seats left, but I do have a few spots left. People can reach out to me on my email, which is humtravelgroup@gmail.com. And that's one of the places that we're going to go. We're going to go to Constitutional Hill. And see how the past meets the present, which is also hopefully what our future will be of humanity. Nelson Mandela lit the light of democracy at Constitutional Hill, and that light burns 24/7. I mean, it was lit with his hand. To me, it's just so profound, right?
Mm.
So to take that light around the world, and then of course we're also going to do some service projects and some speaking, um, and go around, and we're going to go into high schools and universities, and we're actually speaking at a church. So it's really, really cool that we get to bridge this gap, bridge this divide, not just across all of the marginalized communities that we've just mentioned, but we start to bridge this gap overseas and over continent, between continents, so that we start to really come together as the humanitarian society that we are.
So let's back up. So you told us about your trip to Africa. So tell us about your business and when this trip is, and basically what's the purpose? What's your travel, humanitarian travel business all about?
Yeah, so I love that yours is the Underground Railroad, right? And
Yes.
but in my case, it requires a plane. Like we've gone beyond just, what we can do on a train. Like now we've gone onto a plane. Um, it is so amazing to me that we live in this world of virtualness where you and I can have this conversation right across states, literally. And no
Right.
matter where we are in the world, I was actually on a call this morning with the people in South Africa who are helping me to coordinate this trip. And for them, you were asking me what was the time difference, and they were 10 hours ahead of me. So for me, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. For them, it was 6 o'clock in the evening. But time has started to collapse and space has started to collapse. And
Mm.
our differences in that have started to collapse because we get to unite as human beings. And so this trip really is about how do we come together? How do we come together as humans? And how do we make an impact wherever we are, whoever we're with? And how do we bring our talents and share those talents, and then have the talents of the people that are there share. And it doesn't, this particular trip that's coming up to South Africa is from February 23rd is when it's an impact tour. Starts on February the 23rd. We're asking everybody who's coming to arrive on the 22nd. And we'll start the first morning of speaking on the 23rd, which is a Monday. For sure, one of our fellow, well, let me finish that. So we're going to start in Johannesburg on the 23rd, and then we're going to go through and do speaking. We're going to be on media. We're going to be doing actual service projects in the area. We're going to be going to some historical site visits that are historical but are also current, like Constitutional Hill.
Hmm.
And that's where the men's prison was, where Mandela was held for a period of time before Robben Island. We're going to the women's prison, and going to see Constitutional Court itself. And then we'll go on to Cape Town, and see some of the historical sites there. Sorry, not historical sites. See some of the sites there that are like it's so incredible where the two seas meet at Cape Point. We're going to go to Table Mountain. We're also going to go speak at a church. We're also going to go and do service. So this trip really is about impact, and it's about impacting the people who we interact with, but also about the impact that it's going to have on us, because a trip like this is completely transformational. It transforms us from the inside out, from the outside in, and just, all around. And
Hmm.
what I was going to say, where I almost went off on a tangent, but I caught myself, is even one of our sisters from our Lisa community is signed up. I don't know if you know Dr. Patricia Scipio.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
I didn't. I've had it. She's been on my podcast.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I love her. I mean, that woman also has just what a amazing story, amazing history, also in her 60s. She's incredible. And yeah, so she's going to be joining us for this next trip for sure.
Let me ask you a question. What's impact? You said it's an impact tour. Is that a company or is that the? You said
No,
it's
no, it's Humanitarian Travel Group, and the tour is the South African Impact Tour. Is that
also
we are
impact. You're going to go to impact them. What's the message that you're sharing?
Well, the impact is on everybody who's experiencing it. So you said we're going there to impact them. I think what we end up finding when we go on a trip like this is we think we're going to serve. We think we're going to make an impact. And what we find is no matter how much we give, we get more in return. No matter how much impact we think we're making, we get impacted by doing the work, by being there, by being touched by these beautiful humans and lives that we get to interact with. And it is really, really, really powerful. And now I can't remember your question.
So I want to know. So people go to these trips in Africa. Some people go just for the entertainment and the tourism. Some people go and are ministers and go to preach. Some people go and build schools. What's the impact that you all are trying to present there? And I agree with you. When you give back. So it's no way that you can't come back transformed yourself from being there with the people and interacting and seeing what humans can do for each other just
Yeah.
for being there. So that's what I'm asking. What are you going to speak on?
So I personally am going to really speak on what does it mean to shine our light, right?
Uh,
What does that mean? What does it take for us to shine our light? Which is I already went through the first two, which is the S is sometimes shifting our perspective and having faith, and then there's additional letters that we want to really think about what does that require. One of the things that I love about this tour is it's not religious, so it's not rooted in any one particular religion. It's for everybody. The person that I'm doing this particular trip with is David Fagan from Top Talent Agency, and he was actually one of the executive producers on Lisa's When My Soul Speaks on the show. He's a producer, a publicist, a publisher, and so I am. He's done several tours in Africa, and I'm looking really forward to doing this in that way, because the gift that everybody is bringing is to share what their gift is, make the impact based on share the story that you want to share the teaching that you want to teach, share the lesson that you want to give, right? So each person that comes gets to share their own message. There isn't one united universal message necessarily. It's just about what are the lessons I've learned that I can impart, and that's when we'll be going to the schools. There's also people coming that don't necessarily want to speak, right? One of the On the last trip we were on, there were number of people who didn't want to be on stage to speak, but when we went in and we served 1,500 kids food, they were in the line serving the food. When we were walking through the communities where they were more impoverished, like little kids who were just so excited to have visitors come and like just run up and hold hands. And, it was so impactful. It was so powerful. So it's not just about going there to sightsee, which there will be some of that. It's not a tourist trip like you've described, or we're just going to like, see the country. It's everything. It's all encompassing, and each person gets to do what they want to shine at, gets to do what they want to do, gets to be a part of it the way they want to be a part of it. And so even though the prices, because I'm doing it with David, are to me are a little on the higher end, because people that do want to come and speak and do want that footage will get that because it will be videotaped. We also do have some scholarship money available, and if people want to come that don't necessarily want to speak or don't want to speak as much, where we can, help out with the cost. So that is what it is, and I'm really excited for it.
I'm excited for you too. So I'm glad you explained that because that's what we want people to know. Because we're purposely going to hopefully share this podcast in enough time for someone who might want to join you to be able to still connect with you and possibly go with you on the trip. And you mentioned that there will be some footage. Support purpose. Will you be sharing the what you all did? I mean, edited out and everything. But will there be some way for you sharing the video or the movie or the footage afterwards?
Yeah, so because, as I said, because I'm doing this particular trip, I'm doing it with Top Travel. I'm sorry, with Top Talent. I'm combining mine with his. With Top Talent, our website for this is safrica.toptagency.com. So S and then Africa, like South Africa, but just the S Africa period. Top T as in Tom or talent, agency, period, com, right? So that's the website for this particular trip. And as I said, a trip to Europe or to Africa and we'll be staying on safari as well for the first few days that we're there. So there will be some safari. We'll be going on safari every time we drive in and out to go do whatever we're doing, our impact. We'll be driving through safari, which is really exciting for me. That was very intentional on my part because I grew up going on safari and I want people to be able to experience that. Um, and so a trip, as I was saying, to go to some of these other places on a cruise could cost anywhere from 5 to 15,000, right? So the way David does it is the cost is between $10 and $15,000, which will, for somebody who wants to speak, be an international speaker, wants that footage, gets that, depending on how much somebody wants for your business. If you're a speaker, if that's one of your intentions of what you want to get, like for business, write it off as a business expense because that's part of what you'll get for that. But for somebody that doesn't want to do that, right, who doesn't want to be a speaker, who doesn't necessarily need this footage, we do have some scholarship money. And in addition to that, talking about making an impact, there's so many different places that need money for the different programs, the different projects they're doing. In fact, one of my best friends from high school works very closely with a woman in one of the townships. She feeds 350 kids every single day. Her and her family helped Sally, the woman's name is Sally, helped Sally build a kitchen. And they need money because they want to build a community center. So some of the monies that we're bringing with us were actually going to be help support some of these service projects, depending on how many people ultimately end up coming and, what the available monies are. So we're going to be giving money to some of these projects to be able to help. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but so the impact is very deep. It's wide, but it's also deep. That's part of the I was going to say mission, but really it's more of a movement.
Okay, movement. That's beautiful. I love that. Um, I was thinking another question I had because I can see people who are in business. You're giving them great information on what this trip is about. What about the accommodations? Where are they staying?
Yeah, so when you get to so the only other additional cost you have is getting yourself there and flying back, wherever you're flying in from or flying out of, right? But once you get there, we take care of everything. We take care of food, we take care of accommodation, we take care of all internal travel, we take care of entertainment. There will be some cultural immersion experiences. So that money pays for everything. And so for the first few days, we're staying at a place which is, as I said, it's really cool. It's actually on safari. We'll be in individual cabins, which is just, I'm really excited about that. And then just in a hotel in Johannesburg overnight before we fly on to Cape Town. And then in Cape Town, we'll most likely be staying. There's two different places that we're still looking at before we but the two places we're looking at are probably at a place called, I don't know if you're familiar with a place called Seaport Village, which is kind of on the ocean, but it's really beautiful. And yeah, so that's where we'll be staying.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And so this is your new business. So this is not the only trip that's coming up in your future, I hope. Will they mostly
It
be in
is.
South Africa? Are you going to use that as your place to continue to work with? Because that's home.
So I actually now look at the world as home, Carol. Los
Okay.
Angeles is home, America's home, Africa's home. I've been very, very, very fortunate to be able to go to South America. I've been able to go to Asia, China. I've been able to go to Europe. I mean, I've been very, 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 very fortunate to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been so lucky. That's part of what I'm saying. Education. some education comes out of a book, but really when we travel and meet people from different locations and we really connect on a human level, we truly do realize how united we are as human beings. We all feel pain. We all feel joy. I'm looking at your big joy. We all feel love. We all feel, right? This is the humanness within us. And when we get to experience that with other people from around the globe, then the world becomes home. And so, this is the next trip that we have. The last trip that we did, I actually also did with Top Talent, which was to Kenya. I know he has, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that one with him or not. But there's another trip coming up to Kenya. And then we'll just see where it goes because I'm, just exploring and journeying and seeing how it unfolds. But
Oh,
South
cool.
Africa obviously has a special place in my heart, not just because it was where I was born and where I'm from, but to see the transformation and the change that happened there is profound.
Beautiful. I'm gonna say, and you're enjoying it. You're loving what you're doing, and that's so important. That's what it's all about. Finding you're shining, right?
Yes. What's that light within that shines and right? What is it that lights us up?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, this for audience know this is not our first interview together. I'm going to probably make sure that I link to the previous interview so people can learn more about you. But this one we really wanted to put together so we could share your humanitarian travel and your upcoming trip. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
Just that I love you. I'm so grateful to you. You are absolutely, you know that you are one of my absolute soul sisters. And anyone that has tuned in and is still with us now and is listening obviously loves you. They love what you have to share. They love the guests that you bring on. And, one of the things, you are such an inspiration to me. As you know, I've told you many times. You are such an absolute inspiration to me, Carol. We got to meet on a bench in Florida and had this instant connection, and that's again another example to me of neither one of us, like, we were traveling, right?
Yeah.
We got to have this connection, and then based on that connection we formed this friendship, and that's which has been transformative for me, and you continue to be a teacher and educator in my life. You've brought so much to me. And so, anyone that wants to have those kinds of connections and that wants to have those kinds of experiences, whether you travel with me or you travel with somebody else, I just want to really encourage that because it's really what brings us together as a humanity.
Thank you, thank you. I was going to share how we met. We said through Lisa Nichols, and when I think about it, I still tear up. It was like 3 weeks after my daughter passed, and we were there in Daytona Beach, and on that bench, and you gave me the hug of an angel, and I just appreciate it, and I just love you, love you, love you, love you. So thank you. Whew, thank you for being here. I'm going to close out now so I can stop crying on camera. But yes, blessing for your trip. I plan on going with you in the future and experiencing the shine that we both can experience with ourselves and those people that we connect with and impact each other because that's what love in action is all about. It's all about living from your heart, knowing that when you speak, when you act, what you do does impact others, and you want to always impact them in a loving way. And that also comes back to you. So thank you so much, my dear friend, for being here with us today. And I'll be looking for pictures and hearing from you from when you get back from your trip. But I'll talk to you before then too. Thank you.
I love you, sweetheart.
Love you too. Well, I know that this conversation was one that touched some hearts, and I hope that it touched yours. And if so, please subscribe so you can meet more of my beautiful guests who have stories of how they shine and show their love in actions. Thank you for being here. As we come to the close of today's podcast, I want to honor those of you who have stayed with me until the end. Thank you very much. This part is simply an invitation, nothing more. Many of you know me as a storyteller, an elder guide, and someone deeply committed to love and actions. Everything I do, my books, my programs, this podcast, is about helping people live healthier, wiser, and more empowered lives. A few years ago, I began asking myself a very practical question. How do I continue this sustain without burnout, without depending on grants or donations, and without sacrificing my values? That question led me to the unfranchised business and shop.com. At its core, this business is about shopping with intention. Most of us already shop online for food, wellness, beauty, household items, gifts, and everyday essentials. Shop.com brings thousands of trusted stores, I'm sure the ones that you shop at, and brands together in one place so you can compare prices, read reviews, find deals, and best of all, earn cash back on qualified purchase. You're not buying more, you're not being asked to change your lifestyle. You're simply allowing the money you already spend to do the work more wisely. I also have my own personal site with my husband, Doug, the Doug and Carol Mall, where you can shop, earn cash back, and explore premium wellness and lifestyle products, including the exclusive Market American brand that you won't find in stores. When you shop through my site, you still get the benefits of the world class shopping platforms, but you're also supporting this podcast, my creative work, and a small, value driven business rooted in service and education. And I appreciate that. Some people who visit my site come just to shop smarter. Some love the wellness projects. Some eventually explore the business side as a way to create an additional income stream of or a long-term financial flexibility. There's no one right path. Your curiosity decides the pace. I believe deeply that how we spend our money, and you've heard me say this, with love and action, is one of the quietest forms of power. This is simply one way to choose to align my spending with my values and invite others to do the same if it feels right. If you're curious, I invite you to visit my shop.com, Doug and Carol Mall, create a free account, and explore at your own pace. And if you ever have any questions, right there in the shopping mall, you'll see how you can email me and get your questions answered. You can ask about products, the cash back, or the business itself. I'm here to walk you through it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support with my podcast, my books, and my shop.com store. Thank you for choosing your own way to live love in actions.